friends, it's time for Fucked Up Fairy Tales with Liz. Beauty and the Beast is going to take a little while. AdamCat111 sent me some information on a translation of the original novella, so I'm reading that before I get into it. So in the meantime, how about a grim, fucked up grim one? I had a request for this one, and it is Fitchers Bird. Once upon a time, there was a sorcerer who was a thief. A thief of ladies. I don't mean he was a player. I mean he actually stole ladies. He showed up at this house in the guise of a beggar, where these 3 daughters lived. The first daughter opened the door and saw him with a basket begging for bread. So she reached out to hand him some bread, and he touched her arm, and magically it forced her into his basket, and he took her home to his castle. Now when they were there, he was like, "Hey babe, check out this dope castle, you can have anything you want." And she thought, well, I guess if I'm gonna be kidnapped, at least I'm gonna get rich out of it. The sorcerer did indeed give everything the daughter's heart desired. And sometime later, the sorcerer said to the daughter, "Baby, I need to go away on a business trip. Here, you take this egg. Imagine it's health class in your junior year of high school, and take this egg with you wherever you go. I'm also giving you this key. But if you value your life, do not go into the room that this key unlocks. See you on the flip side, babe." So after he leaves, the daughter carried the egg around with her wherever she went, but the temptation was too much. She unlocked the forbidden room with the key, and when she went inside, she found a basin full of butchered human remains. She was so understandably frightened, she dropped the fuck out of that egg, and it fell into the bloody basin. Ah, bloody egg! And she tried to clean the blood off of the egg, but it kept reappearing. And when the sorcerer returned and found her with the bloody egg, he knew she'd been inside the room. And he was like, "I guess I have to add you to my human salad." Because she disobeyed him, the sorcerer chopped up the daughter and put her in the basin with the other dead people. And then he went begging to the same house for the second daughter. And to make a long story short, he did the exact same thing to her. He gave her the egg, he gave her the key, told her not to go into the room, she did it anyway, she dropped the egg, he figured it out, he chopped her up and put her in the bowl. So I like to think by the time he showed up at the house for the third daughter, she was like, okay, every time this beggar visits my house, one of my family members goes missing. So while the sorcerer did trick her into the basket and kidnapped her to the castle, this time when he gave her the egg and the key, she was like, okay, this is obviously some kind of test, so I'm gonna put this fucking egg in a cupboard. She went into the room sans egg and discovered the bodies, including her sisters. Okay, luckily, I am a puzzle master. So she reassembled the body pieces of her sisters, and they came back to life. So when the sorcerer returned and found that the girl had the egg intact, he assumed she hadn't been in the chamber, and he was like, "God, I love an obedient girl. Would you be my bride?" Okay, but first, I'm gonna need a dowry. I'm gonna fill that basket you carry full of gold, and you need to take that to my parents' house. And I need a strong man. So don't you dare stop and rest along the way, because I will fucking see you from my window. So he agrees, but instead of gold into the baskets, the girl puts both of her sisters. The sorcerer straps the basket with the 2 girls to his back and heads up on his way, and he is like crushed by the weight. He stops to rest, but one of the girls in the basket pretends to be the sister, and she says, "Hey, I see you resting, you big lug. Get a move on." So he hustles along his way, and every time he tries to take a rest, a voice from the basket encourages him along, and he assumes it's his bride. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the girl grabs a skull, I assume, from all of the leftover body parts. And according to Grimm, she decorates it with jewels. She puts the skull in the window so it's peeping out, and then she gets to inviting all the sorcerer's friends to the wedding. Next up, she coats herself in honey and covers herself with white feathers. She sets out from the castle, and along the way, she meets some of the wedding guests who are like, "Hey, it's a Fitchers Bird. What are you up to, bird?" "I'm just coming from the bride's house where she's getting ready for the wedding today." "Look at her, she's peeping out the window." "Yeah, that looks like a girl looking out the window." Soon after, having dropped the girls in the baskets off at the parents' house, the sorcerer comes back and he catches sight of his bride all dressed up like a bird. "Hey, Fitchers Bird, what's up with you?" "I just came from your bride's house. She's getting ready for that wedding." "See her in the window?" The sorcerer sees the decorated skull in the window and he assumes, "Yep, definitely my fiancé." And he and all his friends enter the castle, ready for the wedding. But meanwhile, the sisters have gathered up a bunch of allies of the family. And once all the wedding guests and the sorcerer are in the castle, they lock the fucking doors. They set the whole fucking castle ablaze and burn everyone alive inside. The end. So that was a trip. In this same volume of Grimm, there's another story called The Castle of Murder, which is basically the same story. Castle of Murder has a better title for sure. And it has a much better ending, and it doesn't do the weird bird disguise. But I will say that the girl at the heart of it maybe isn't as clever as the one in Fitchers Bird, but they are so similar it's weird they're in the same volume. Anyway, sweet dreams!